Hi, I am CagerOnTwoWheels, and today I am going to be answering the Ask Me Anything. Finally, I've got some time to do this. I've got the questions ready, not here though, so let's do it. Thing is, since I don't know the questions by heart, I know a few of them by heart, but I'm going to have to split them up. So the only way to do this, we're going to be traveling in time, we're going forwards in time, we're going backwards in time, because I can't memorize all 10 or 15 questions. Damn, I can't even memorize how many are there. I can't memorize the questions and answer them all in one go. Believe me, I've tried and it was hilarious. So I am going to do the videos over a period of time, and then we'll be traveling back and forth in time while I answer the various questions. However, this might prove to be quite a lengthy video, so stick around. Remember, the questions were voted on a previous video, which is about a month or so ago, or a month and a half. I've had some personal issues, so everything has been put on hold for almost a month too. So now it's finally time for the AMA. Let's skip ahead a bit so we can do some time traveling. Okay, actually I'm going to answer the very first question now, which is, where did you learn English? It's not the first one, it's some other one else. I think it's the second, but hey, order doesn't matter now, right? So, where did I learn English? Well, from a young age, say 4th grade, so 9 years old. I actually attended some extra English classes in school, but that didn't work out very well. I already knew some English from TV shows and stuff like that. Remember, in Portugal everything is subbed instead of dubbed, so kids didn't, it happened more before than it does now, unfortunately. So kids learned English by hearing English and having the translation in the subtitles. And so we would have one of two options: either learn to read, so we could understand why the hell those guys were running for 18 miles before managing to score a goal. I'm looking at you, Tsubasa. Or learn English. Actually, Tsubasa I think was in Spanish, whatever. So we would eventually learn English by ourselves, or at least some words, the basics. Yes, no, donde está la biblioteca, things like that. That English course, that extra classes, didn't actually help a lot. Actually, it did not help, because forever the only way I can go through the progression of the month is in English, because that's how I learned it. I can't do January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December in Portuguese. I just cannot. I don't know how to do it. I have to do it in my head in English. So that's the whole deal. Other than that, I started learning English, as everyone did, by watching movies. And at around 12 or 13, my dad gave me a book in English to read. He said I was gonna like it, and I actually did. It was a very silly novel. It's a series of novels called The Destroyer, a guy with some special superpowers and stuff. It's quite silly, but it was very enjoyable, and I liked it. Then he gave me, I think it was, no, he gave me Tarzan. Tarzan was in Portuguese, I think, so that doesn't count. Eventually he gave me a small book with several short stories, and it was called The Best of Asimov. And I was immediately curious, what kind of odd name is this, Asimov? So I read those stories and I loved them. It was very simple English, very easy to read. Actually not simple, but I could understand it, even though I didn't know all the words, but I could understand the whole thing easily. The Destroyer also helped with vocabulary, and so I started reading Asimov. Eventually I let go of the Destroyer novels and started heavily going into Asimov, and more and more and more, and so I read nearly everything I could from Isaac Asimov, which is good because he wrote about just about everything, which gave me the vocabulary I have today. At the same time, the internet was starting. I was there when it began, and so I started playing with other internet people at a time where there wasn't even Steam. we're using M player, playing Rainbow Six. I joined a Dutch clan, which had people from Sweden, from Belgium, from Holland, obviously. And it was a lot of fun. So I had to speak English, not just read or talk English. I had to speak English to them. And at this time I was 15, 16, and so it just went uphill from there. Lots of practice, huge vocabulary from reading. I can't read in Portuguese. I hate reading in Portuguese. It just feels clunky. But in English I can read. I love reading in English. That's the only way. I actually love reading. On the other hand, I was a bit of a weird one. When I was about 8, while kids were beating themselves senseless with rocks and sticks pretending to be swords, I was reading encyclopedias. I'm not joking. I was literally reading encyclopedias. I've always liked to read, and encyclopedias was a juvenile illustrated encyclopedia, but I just loved reading that. So since I always loved to read, Dad gave me an English book to see, hey, maybe that'll help. Yes it did. It did help immensely. So I'm a huge fan of Asimov. I've always liked science fiction. That's why Dad gave me a science fiction book. I've read some of the other great masters, Arthur C. Clarke and stuff like that. My favorite is still Asimov. It's the most down-to-earth, most awe-inspiring stories. Arthur C. Clarke is just way too much LSD, man. That thing is way far out. It's a mix of hard science fiction, which is science fiction heavily based on science and less on fiction. Asimov is also hard, but not quite as hard. Takes a bit more liberties, but Arthur C. Clarke has some definite issues with way out there ideas and thoughts. But yes, L. Ron Hubbard, read a few, didn't much enjoy them, although some are very good, but I read a ton of other compilations which are called the Hugo winners. I heartily advise you, if you have to read science fiction, start with any book that says the Hugo winners. Hugos are like the Oscars for science fiction short stories and novels, etc. And every single story on that is going to be something that you will be thinking on for years. And if you have to read one science fiction story, just one, just to see how what it's about and how it's done, just read The Final Question by Asimov, or is it The Last Question by Asimov? I don't remember if it's one or the other, but that story will blow your mind away. Okay, onwards. That's how I learned English. Reading, television and movies. Mostly reading. Next.